Let's jump right into a really fascinating topic today. We're exploring how African leaders take what look like severe, frankly overwhelming organizational paradoxes and literally flip them into profound strengths. In this explainer, we're going to look under the hood at the underlying psychology. We want to know what separates the leaders who are just barely surviving complex organizational challenges from the ones who truly adapt and master them. Think about this for a second. How do you actually lead when the rules are missing and resources are incredibly scarce? The African business landscape is a real crucible. Leaders are facing massive institutional voids every single day. Imagine you're trying to steer a company through a rapid digital transformation, right? But you're having to do it with missing market infrastructure, super ambiguous legal frameworks, and just pervasive resource scarcity. It's an environment that absolutely demands incredible flexibility. And then you add in the concept of Ubuntu. It translates to I am because we are. It's this beautiful collectivist philosophy, but it adds a whole new layer of complexity. Leaders have to navigate those unpredictable voids we just talked about while staying deeply anchored in these collectivist expectations. Your legitimacy as a leader isn't just tied to the bottom line, it's tied to communal benefit and relational harmony. You are constantly balancing personal ambition with a profound obligation to the community. So how do you survive this intense pressure cooker? Well, it actually comes down to a profound observation by psychiatrist Viktor Frankl. He said between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This is a total game changer. When faced with rapid change or severe constraints, we don't have to just react on autopilot. By finding that mental space between an external trigger and our internal response, leaders can literally rewire how they perceive adversity. To see how this works in practice, here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. The African leadership crucible. 2. The psychological resource bedrock. 3. The cognitive reframing engine. 4. Mitigating stress and burnout. And 5. A reframing training curriculum. Let's get right to it. Starting with Section 1. The African leadership crucible. Navigating paradoxes and voids. We hear about institutional voids, like missing infrastructure or ambiguous laws, and it sounds crippling. But consider this ancient thought from Lao Tzu. It is in the spaces where there is nothing that the usefulness of the room lies. Think about that. These exact empty spaces are actually ripe for unique, context-specific innovation. If a supply chain collapses, that gap isn't just a failure. It becomes the exact space where a localized, innovative solution has to be built. The void is an opportunity. Now, before that brilliant innovation can happen, we have to be real about the toll this takes. Operating in this kind of volatile environment causes chronic stress. We're talking resource scarcity, intense job demands, huge emotional labor. It creates external and internal emotional triggers that can lead straight to burnout. Leaders are constantly fighting their brain's automatic threat responses just to keep the lights on. We absolutely have to address this psychological toll. Moving to Section 2, the psychological resource bedrock, preparing the mind for adaptation. Before a leader can effectively reframe all that stress, they need a solid foundation of psychological resources. Think of psychological capital, or PsyCap, as a protective shield. Traits like hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism directly counteract severe setbacks. If you have high efficacy, you've got confidence in your abilities even when the playbook is completely missing. And with deep optimism, a massive currency devaluation isn't a world-ending catastrophe. It's just a temporary hurdle that you know you can clear. Then add cultural intelligence and a growth mindset to the mix. Suddenly, the leader has the motivation to step entirely off mental autopilot. They start viewing ambiguous challenges as vital learning data instead of threats. Cultural intelligence gives them the agility to navigate diverse values, and a growth mindset guarantees that failures are simply seen as stepping stones for development. Which brings us to Section 3, the cognitive reframing engine, the reappraisal mechanism. This right here is the absolute core of our explainer. Cognitive reframing is the active, mediating engine that translates those raw psychological traits we just discussed into adaptable responsiveness. Contextual challenges activate the need for resources, for sure, but it's the deliberate reinterpretation of threats into challenges that actually drives true leadership adaptability. Let's look at the difference between a fixed automatic thought and an adaptive one. And to be clear, this isn't toxic positivity. It's an accurate, flexible shift. Say the power goes out. The automatic thought is usually panic. This ruins our productivity. But the adaptive leader pauses and thinks, okay, this is enforced downtime. Let's use it to reconnect and brainstorm low-tech solutions. That tiny mental shift completely changes the behavioral outcome. I love thinking about this process through the Japanese art of kintsugi. It's the practice of repairing broken pottery with gold. It symbolizes how cracks and trauma actually create unique strength and beauty. African leaders are essentially doing this. They take the cracks of resource scarcity and bind them with the gold of cognitive reframing to build a stronger, more resilient organization. You're not just putting things back exactly how they were, you're highlighting the challenges to create a much stronger new design. Next up, Section 4, Mitigating Stress and Burnout, Sustaining the Leader. Because the truth is, you simply cannot maintain this high-level cognitive reframing if your tank is completely empty. Understanding burnout means looking at two major models. Conservation of resources theory shows us that extreme stress hits hard when our internal energy is drained faster than we can replenish it. And the job demands resources model shows burnout happens when job demands vastly outweigh your available social support. Burnout starts right in that friction between what circumstances demand of you and what internal energy you actually have left. To stop this burnout cycle, leaders literally have to build margins of rest back into their schedules. It takes deliberate steps. Step 1, name the reality. Step 2, reclaim your center. Step 3, lighten your load. And Step 4, practice recovery intentionality. You have to identify your load zones, learn to say no, and genuinely unplug. Research actually shows that proactive recovery, like getting lost in a hobby with no specific outcome attached, dramatically improves your well-being the very next day. Finally, Section 5, a reframing training curriculum, building organizational resilience. Organizations need a real systematic way to teach these vital cognitive skills, which is where the ABCDE coaching model comes in. It stands for Activating Event, Beliefs, Consequences, Disputation, and New Effect. It allows leaders and HR partners to systematically catch automatic negative beliefs, dispute whether they are actually valid, and create a powerful new adaptive effect. You're learning to literally rewire your reactions in real time. And how do you scale this whole shebang? You bake it right into the culture. You redesign training modules with cognitive behavioral principles. You train internal coaches. Imagine during an interview giving a candidate a situational judgment test about a sudden community conflict just to evaluate their reframing agility. Or creating a culture where senior leaders publicly share a time they had an automatic negative thought and how they successfully reframed it. That's how you build resilience. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder for your own leadership journey. Are you just surviving the complexity of your environment, or are you mastering the cognitive art of reframing it? The success of the next generation won't depend on avoiding the void, but on how beautifully they learn to reframe it. Are you letting the environment dictate your stress? Or are you actively finding that space between stimulus and response to build something stronger? Thanks so much for exploring this vital topic with me today.